Hello, welcome along to the Fun Kids Science Weekly. My name's Dan. Thank you so much for finding us and for listening. If you're interested in everything that's happening all across the universe, well, you don't need a rocket, you don't need an alien on WhatsApp. What you need is this podcast. And you're here, you've found us. So well done, the first part of your mission is accomplished. The next part is to join in, because this week we're talking about an explosive tree, also about a dude that's made mates with an octopus, and we've got your questions to answer as well. Today they're about fish, flying dinosaurs, and water. I'll get to those in just a sec. First, we're catching up with one of our favourite geniuses on the show. This is Karina and her alter ego, K-Mystery.
K-Mystery, elements in danger.
Hey, I'm Karina, and this is my super cool friend, K-Mystery.
Chemistry superhero alter ego, in fact.
So, you've been telling me about these elements in danger. Silver, arsenic, yttrium, and gallium. Any more?
Oh, plenty more. I've got one right here. It's gorgeous, gargantuan. Get ready, gear up! For the genius of gallium!
Gallium? Is that where Doctor Who comes from?
That's Gallifrey. Come on, hold tight. The story of gallium starts with the father of the periodic table.
The periodic table? That's like a big chart with all the elements on, right?
Yeah. The periodic table used today was developed by a Russian called Mendeleev in the 1860s, 150 years ago. And how amazing is this? He actually discovered gallium before it was even discovered.
Which makes literally no sense.
By grouping elements depending on their properties, Mendeleev could see that there was a gap where gallium would ultimately end up being.
Nope, still doesn't make sense.
Okay then, fast forward to 1875, when a French scientist called Paul-Émile Lecoq de Boisbedon located some gallium for real when examining some zinc.
Voila!
It turned out to be really handy, and that's in part to having some kind of freaky qualities.
Doesn't look very freaky, more like a lump of silvery metal.
You think? Well, let's turn up the heat just a little.
Ooh, cosy. Oh, it's melted the gallium already, but it's only a bit warm in here. I thought it was a metal, and that metals only melted at high temperatures.
It is a metal, but one of a handful that melts at very low temperatures, like mercury, that we find in thermometers. Gallium's great though, because it's not poisonous. Okay, turn the heat down again and...
Oh, it's solid again. Weird.
Weird, yes, but useful. We know that gallium melts at exactly 29.76 degrees Celsius. But if you keep turning up the heat, gallium won't start to boil until the temperature's over 2,000 degrees. Hardly any other substances stay liquid over such a wide range of temperature. Gallium's used to conduct electricity in mobile phones and can also make cool blue and violet LED lights.
So, why is it an element in danger?
Well, there is some gallium in the Earth's crust, but like many other elements in danger, it's hard to extract from other elements and minerals. You need to mine thousands of tons of rock just to get a small amount to use. And that's why it's important that we conserve the gallium we have.
So, what are we going to do?
There's plenty you can do. More gadgets mean more elements are needed. So, simply buying fewer phones and tablets, well, we can start preserving the resources that we have. Sharing and reusing technology you don't need anymore and recycling them when they're broken. Some of these rare elements can be recovered and used again.
So, you're saying, if I help out, I'm kind of being a chemistry superhero too, just like you.
No one is just like me, Karina. But you'll be the next best thing.
Thanks, K-Mystery.
K-Mystery, elements in danger, with support from the Royal Society of Chemistry. Find out more and get hands-on with chemistry at funkidslive.com/chemistry.
It's question time on the show. By far, this is my favourite part of the podcast. Like, I love finding out about dangerous dinosaurs and exploding trees. We got one of those coming up in a sec. I love chatting to all the different experts that we get on as well. What I really love, though, is when you send me your science question and I have to become like a proper detective and I do all the digging to figure out the answer for you. You can get involved. Leave your question as a review over on Apple Podcasts. That is what Collins has done. They are from Huntsville, Alabama, and they want to know why fish have scales. Perfectly reasonable request. There are two main reasons for this, Collins. Number one, armour. The scales are actually above a layer of skin and they provide protection to the fish from attacks from predators and parasites, and these scales slide on top of each other like armour on a medieval knight, so there aren't any gaps. Also, the scales are slippy and slidey. They help them glide through the water much better. Thank you so much for that, Collins. We are staying in America for this question as well. This is from Caleb in Georgia, who wants to know if there was a dinosaur that could fly. Not really, is the answer, Caleb. Not proper dinosaurs, anyway. But there were reptiles around in the dinosaur times who did fly. The pterosaur, which is confusing to look up online because there's a silent P at the start, just thought I'd warn you. Anyway, the pterosaurs, they would roam the skies from the late Triassic period to the end of the Cretaceous period, which is kind of from 230 million years ago to 66 million years ago. Give or take a few million years. You had the pterodactyl, which the world-famous pterodactyl, and also the pteranodon, and there were a few more in there as well. They were flying reptiles, but they weren't strict dinosaurs. Caleb, thank you for the question. And our last question this week comes from Hector the Detector in Adelaide, South Australia, who asks why water is see-through. Now, it's see-through and transparent because electrons, which are found in all atoms, they normally absorb light. But in water, very simply, they don't absorb the light. They let it pass through it, and instead they reflect back UV rays, which is why you get more sunburn near the ocean as well. Thank you so much, by the way. I'm doing this right now from London. And we've had questions from two questions from America, and we had one from South Australia as well. I love hearing from people all around the country. So if you've got a question that you want answered on the show, you need to leave it as a review for the Fun Kids Science Weekly over on Apple Podcasts. It's the Fun Kids Science Weekly. Now, the pandemic has caused a plastic explosion. That's what a charity has found out. We're going to talk to them now. They are Surfers Against Sewage. And to find out how we can help, Emily van der Geer is on the line. Hey, Emily.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Really well. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I want to start off with just the background. Surfers Against Sewage. It doesn't sound like we need much explanation about what you do, but I guess just run us through what do Surfers Against Sewage do?
Sure. So Surfers Against Sewage actually started all the way back in the 1990s. And it was a group of surfers who were sick of sewage and sick of getting sick from going into the water every time they wanted to do what they loved, which was surf. So they started a campaign to fight the big water companies and tell them that it wasn't okay anymore to be pumping sewage into the ocean. And they had really good results. And so it's grown from there as a campaigning charity. And now we tackle all sorts of other issues to do with the ocean, and things just like single-use plastics. We still work on water quality. We look at marine protection, and our kind of big focus is getting as many people as possible to make a lot of noise and say when they're not happy when something is going wrong for the ocean.
Now, through the summer and through lockdown, most people were unable to go on holiday overseas, which meant, I imagine where you are down in Falmouth, that it was a lot busier than it normally is in the summer. When did you first start to notice this plastic explosion with things littering the beach?
Well, I think we really noticed that during the main period of lockdown, when everybody kind of needed to be in their homes and weren't able to be travelling around and visiting the beach so much, we noticed a big reduction in single-use plastic and plastics on the beach. But then, of course, as soon as people were able to move around more, and just like you said, people not going abroad, so going to beaches in the UK instead of going abroad, that's when we really suddenly noticed the contrast between much less while everybody was stuck at home and then much, much more when everybody was allowed out again.
So what have you been doing to help clean the beach up? How have Surfers Against Sewage been busy with this?
So Surfers Against Sewage, through the sort of period of lockdown, we really wanted to give people a way that they could still help and make a difference with plastic pollution. So we ran a digital version of our Return to Offender campaign, and the way that worked was whenever people were out on their daily exercise, on their walk or their run, and they saw a piece of plastic pollution, whether it was in a park or on a street or on the beach or wherever it might be, and it had a brand, a company's name on it, then the idea was that people would take a photo of it and then put it on social media, put it on Instagram or on Twitter or on Facebook, and tag those companies in and say, hey, whichever company it is, we're not happy seeing this. Your plastic pollution is polluting my local favourite outside space. What are you doing about it? So that was one of the ways that we really got people involved. And then now we're running a period of plastic protest campaign. So that's consisting of lots of action. So we've brought back Return to Offender. We're also asking people to write to their MPs, to actually go out and clean up as well on the beach. So we're pulling together all these actions to get people to help make a difference.
And you're moving to do stuff in schools. Now it's a new term, aren't you? This is plastic-free schools, rather. Tell us a little bit just about what the idea is.
So Plastic Free Schools is the programme that I work with Surfers Against Sewage, and I think it's just the best thing ever. So it started in 2017, and the idea is that when schools sign up to this programme, we send a whole bunch of resources, and there's a series of 5 objectives that the pupils lead. So the children within the school, they're the ones that we really want to encourage to make change. So it acts like a campaign. So the children run their own campaign on plastic pollution within their school, and particularly single-use plastics coming into the school. So there's 5 objectives, and when the children start working on this campaign, they have to come together and form their group, and then they have to really understand that their voice is so powerful. So we ask them to do a clean-up at their school to find evidence of the problem. We ask them to contact their MP. We ask them to challenge companies that are producing single-use plastics. And then the most important thing of all is that we really want to see changes in schools. So the schools have to commit to removing at least 3 single-use plastic items from their school for good.
How easy is that to do for schools, though, in your experience, Emily? What single-use items tend to be quite easy to just take away from schools without much being noticed?
Well, we really see that it's different with every single school, but I can give you the top 5 plastics that people get rid of within their schools. So we have, first of all, we have single-use plastic bottles. So if you imagine every single pupil in the school brought a reusable bottle to school instead of using single-use water bottles, that makes a massive difference already. Then milk cartons. So in a lot of, particularly primary schools, pupils are given an individual milk carton with a plastic straw wrapped to the side, wrapped in more plastic, and the whole thing's wrapped in more plastic. So we've had lots of schools switch to large milk bottles that they then pour into reusable cups and then give them out that way, and then the cups can be washed up at the end. So after that, we've also got plastic cutlery. So moving to reusable cutlery instead of throwaway plastic cutlery, that's another really, really big one. Getting rid of single-use plastic in lunch boxes is also another really, really important one. And then the 5th one is just escaping my brain at the moment, but I might come back to you with it in a minute.
That's all right. It's amazing. There is so much that we can do, and you're starting to do this. Surfers Against Sewage, what have you got going on in the future? Because this is such a hot topic at the moment. Plastic reduction, helping single-use plastics. You know what you are doing. Aside from us being at school, what are your general plans for how we're going to help stop this within the next year, within the next couple of years? What would you like to see happen?
Well, I think the most important part of the idea around how we change things with single-use plastics is that we really need to design this out of our systems. We have so many single-use plastics that are being produced every single second of every minute of every hour of every day. And if we can stop that production and look at the things that we can use instead of single-use plastics, that's going to make such a big difference. Because as long as we're still producing this stuff, it's still going to end up in our playgrounds and on our parks and on our streets, and then in our rivers, and then eventually in the ocean, where we know it's going to cause all sorts of trouble. So it's about designing single-use plastics out of the systems that we're using every single day. So in order to do that, we need to talk to businesses, we need to talk to industry, and we need to talk to government, and we really need to get everybody working from the same page to drive this change.
Amazing. Emily, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Right, let's do this week's Dangerous Dan, which is all about a tree that has so many ways to cause damage. You will find the sandbox tree in tropical forests in North and South America. They've also spread to parts of Africa now too. They are huge, they are tall, thick, and as soon as you see one, you know it's there to cause harm, because its trunk is covered in thick spikes. They jut out at all angles, right the way through the tree, all the way to the leaves, meaning that no monkey can ever really climb to the top. It's like these massive spearheads that are zigzagging their way up the tree trunk. The spikes also cover the fruit that the tree makes, and the fruit are these big, round, pumpkin-y things that kind of hang down, and more about them in just a sec. Now, the sap of the tree is poisonous too. It won't kill you, but it makes you sick, you get cramps, and you get an angry rash. And that sap has been used by tribes to make poison darts for hundreds of years. And that's not even the worst of it. Because the fruit, these large pumpkin things that we spoke about, when they become overripe, when they dry out, they explode. They hurtle their seeds at up to 150 miles an hour, causing creatures some serious pain if they get hit. It's why the sandbox tree is also known by another much more terrifying name, because it's also nicknamed the dynamite tree. Let's find out about some of our favourite inventors on the show now, some geniuses who have made stuff which help you get around every single day. Let's find out more with Sir Sidney McSprocket.
Sir Sidney McSprocket's Great British Minds.
Oh, hello, Sir Sidney McSprocket here. Now, I love to invent and create new things, just like many of our great British minds. Engineers and designers love to find a way to not only solve problems, but to make life better by improving things. Like my cheese weighed tea's made. Not only a lovely cup of tea, but a cracker too, with the perfect amount of cheese applied. Oh, smashing, I'll have that in a bit. Making life better is an approach favoured by many creative people, and nowhere would you have seen more examples in Victorian times than at the Great Exhibition of 1851, where the very latest inventions were on display. Now, as well as special swimming gloves designed by a Mr. Clayton of London, they were webbed like duck's feet to help in swimming. The Great Exhibition featured one very important facility for the very first time ever. Any ideas? Oh, well, here's a clue. The exhibition provided individual cubicles with flushing toilets for members of the public. Before 1851, flushing public toilets for men were not available, and public toilets for women, well, they didn't exist at all. What on earth were they expected to do, I wonder? Not go out at all, I expect. Large crowds of both men and women were expected at the exhibition. In fact, Prince Albert wanted as many people as possible to attend and not rush home in a hurry. He therefore instructed George Jennings, a plumber from Brighton, to install the first paid-for flushing public toilet within the Crystal Palace. But like many inventors, Jennings didn't want to just solve a problem, he wanted to make the experience much better too. So, visitors may have to spend a penny, but for that they'd not only get the luxury of a clean toilet seat, but they'd get a towel, a comb and a shoe shine too. It was the start of the phrase, spend a penny. Although records show that during the Great Exhibition over 675,000 pennies were spent. Now, there's a famous saying that you can't reinvent the wheel. But our next Great British Mind did exactly that. Let me introduce you to Duncan Fitzsimmons, a student at the Royal College of Art in London. He'd seen a challenge that wheelchair users faced. With bulky wheels, a lot of space is needed to store their chairs when travelling or when they are at home. He came up with a design called the Morph Folding Wheel, a folding wheelchair wheel that collapses down to nearly half its size. Fitzsimmons saw a way for a large circle to fold down into a smaller shape, and he tested the ideas with patterns, using everything from folding cardboard to chopping up bicycle wheels. He designed collapsible spokes and a segmented rim that locks in place by a quick-release axle inserted through the hub. And here's the thing, it not only solved a problem, but his design makes wheelchairs much more agile too. And we all want to get where we're going faster these days. So, as you can see, the sort of people who don't just settle for a solution, but who want to make things even better, are the sorts of folk who make Great British Minds. Oh, tea time! I'm off to have my tea and cheese before it gets cold. Tatty bye for now.
Sir Sidney McSprocket's Great British Minds. With support from the Royal Commission 1851. Find out more at funkidslive.com/McSprocket.
Let's do this week's Science in the News. Now, scientists may have identified the Thwaites Glacier's weakness. We've spoken about this part of Antarctica before. We've had a few guests on to talk to us about the Thwaites Glacier. It's a huge sheet of ice near the South Pole, and it is melting at a rapid rate. It's dumping so much ice into the ocean, pumping up sea levels, and scientists have been analysing why, and they've noticed a spot on the deep sea floor right under the glacier where warm water sneaks in and it melts the ice, which causes the problem. Also, conservation group the World Wildlife Fund says that wildlife is in catastrophic decline due to human destruction. Wildlife numbers have fallen by 2/3 in less than 50 years. It's because us humans burn forests, overfish the seas and destroy wild areas, so animals have nowhere left to live. And finally, a man from South Africa, some better animal news, who began swimming daily to get fit, has begun a friendship with an octopus. He would go there into the ocean near South Africa and to have a swim to get fit. And slowly, he says, the octopus began to recognise him, there was a trust, and now they've got a friendship. And that is it for this week's Fun Kids Science Weekly. Thank you so much for listening. If you've got a question that you want answered on the show, you need to leave it for us as a review over on Apple Podcasts. Find the show on there. There's a little comment box at the bottom. That's where you leave your question. Let me know your name so I can say hello. A really fancy, creative, fun name is always great to say, so come up with one of those if you can. And 5 stars as well will really help me see your question. While you're on Apple Podcasts, it's one of the best places that you can hear all of the shows that we do. We've got loads more science ones. We've got ones on tons of different topics as well. You can find them there, wherever you get your shows. Google, Spotify, we're on those ones too, on the free Fun Kids app, and you can get us at funkidslive.com. And Fun Kids, we're a radio station from the UK. You can listen to us if you live in the country, on your way back from school, if you've just gone back, or if you're still chilling at home. Find Fun Kids on your DAB digital radio, on that free Fun Kids app, and at funkidslive.com.